Please give a warm welcome and standing ovation for Yoka.
Hi everyone, hi. Thanks for having me here at Codegarden. I'm so excited that I can share some insights on remote work, how we have that team connection, and how you can keep a work-life balance even in a remote context. So to be honest, actually the great Arthur C. Clarke, he already predicted the essence of my talk in 1964 when he said that people will no longer commute, but they will communicate. So here we are now, and let me start by sharing the most important document when you're working in a remote context, or at least according to me. This is my personal manual. A personal manual is a document where you write down the things you want your team to know about you. It's professional stuff, it's personal stuff, it's just sharing what you need from your team to be the best version of yourself. So for example, in my personal manual, I wrote down that I probably like the things that you don't like, thinking about project management and even GDPR. So please let me help you with that. There's also a part in my personal manual about meetings. If you want me to attend the meeting, then I need you to tell me what is my role in that meeting. What do you expect from me in that meeting, and how can I prepare? If I don't have that information from you, I might just as well skip that meeting, and you don't want that. And on a personal level as well, there is some information about me as well, things I want you to know about me, things where we can connect about. So I'm quite open about my 2 burnouts, but it's my lifelong mission to prevent that anyone in my team is suffering from burnout. So if you feel overwhelmed, please talk to me. There is some lighter stuff in there as well. So I got married last year wearing these sneakers. And I have the cutest dog, Louis. So if you have pets, let's just talk about pets. Let's just share pictures of our pets. Oh, and by the way, this is this is dog tags. At AG Consult, dog tags is seriously a thing. Whenever in remote meetings we talk about our dog, our cat, our pet, we can't continue our meeting before sharing pictures. So this is me paying dog tags. Now you already heard a bit about me, about who I am, what I need from you to work, to be efficient. But I like to know you a bit better as well. So I want to start by asking you a few questions. Nothing too hard, just raise your hand if you agree with my question. And I hope you can all just raise hands, please. So first question, during COVID, who suffered from Zoom fatigue? Who struggled with their work-life balance? Now that we are past COVID, who goes back to the office for 3 or more days? Who can work from home for 3 or more days? And who can decide when and where they can work? Wow, that's amazing. Thanks for showing me all those hands. Before diving in how we do this at AG Consult, this remote working, I'm going to take you through a bit of research as well. I'm going to introduce you to 4 lovely people because I think there are some conversation starters in there. So I'm going to introduce you first to Nick Bloom. He's a Stanford professor. He's a top voice when we're talking about working from home and remote work. So he's done quite a lot of research about remote working. And he says in his research that if you look in the data, we can save about 70 minutes on average a day. That's right, we're talking about on average 70 minutes a day. Now it's obvious that if you don't have to commute, you save time for sure. You also save a bit of time getting ready for work because let's be honest, this is not how I work from home. You only see this part of me in Zoom meetings. So at home, I work in my comfy sweatpants. Saves me time for sure. But if you can gain up to 70 minutes a day when you can work from home, how do you spend those 70 minutes? And again, Nick Bloom did his research, and he says that almost half of that time, so 30 minutes of that time, goes to working more. The other rest of your time that goes to things you love to do or chores at home. But if you are allowed to work from home, your bosses, they get 30 minutes extra of your time. So if you're not allowed to work from home as much as you want, there's a true conversation starter here. Dear boss, research says. Nick Bloom also did research about mental health, because when we're talking about working from home, a lot of people say that working from home is bad for your health. He did his research, surveyed over 4,000 people, and his main takeaway is that people are all different. We have seen those hands. We can agree that everyone is different. So what does that mean for our topic of remote work? Well, it says that you don't want to push people back to the office for 5 days, but perhaps you also don't want to push people towards working remotely for 5 days. So Nick Bloom says that choice and flexibility is the best way to approach working from home. That's best for your mental health. And this is one of the essences of my talk. Give your team, or take the choice and flexibility to organize your work and your life for that work-life balance. We all know this company, right? Do we know the CEO of L'Oréal? Perhaps you know this quote. L'Oréal's CEO says that many remote employees, they have no attachment. They have no passion and no creativity, so he wants to push his people back to the office. Now, Umbraco community, what do we think about this? Yeah, right. We have Nick Bloom, choice, flexibility, good for your mental health, and then we have no passion, no creativity when we go back to the office. So if you want to learn more about working remotely and working from home, Atlassian has great content on their website, and I prefer this article because it says that office attendance doesn't drive team connection, with the open-ended question, so what does? So basically they say, don't push people towards the office, and if you push the people towards the office, think about why you want them to be at that office. Do you want them there for that connection? Do you want them there to work together on a project? But think about the reasons why before you just push everyone back to the office. It's not because you have people at the office that you have a team that can work together. Sounds right for me. Last person I want you to introduce to is Susanna Romansova. She is amazing when we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I particularly love this quote as well, because this works for working from home as well. She says that building a high-performing, diverse team isn't just about assembling a group of talented individuals. Again, she says that bringing people to one location doesn't mean that it will be a team. But what are we talking about then? What does make that team a true team? What makes that connection? And for me, now we are talking about company culture. This is, for me, company culture. This is about psychological safety. This is, for me, being able to express what you need. This is, for me, having colleagues and coworkers who respect your boundaries, and you being able to set and defend those boundaries. So now I'm going to talk about how we do this at AG Consult. We are, since COVID, a 100% remote company. We see each other for 1 day a month for something that we call team days. During those team days, we lunch, we eat, we celebrate successes, we connect over our common goals, we connect over our pets, of course. And we also learn from each other. We also work on projects. We brainstorm, we go for discussions so that we learn from each other as a team. For the rest of the time, so for the remaining 99%, everyone in the team can choose when and where they work. So in this next part of my talk, I'm going to share you the insights, the things that we do, the smaller rituals perhaps that we do to make sure that we are a team, that we have that connection, but that we also have those boundaries. It says there 3 things, so I'm going to share with you 3 verbs. If there's one thing I want you to take away from my talk, it'll be those 3 verbs. Starting with my first verb, communicate. You've seen my personal manual. You've seen the value of that document. You can list, you can express what you need from your team in that document, and you can share some personal things. So for the neurodivergent people amongst us, this is a great invitation to talk about red flags, to talk about allergies, without having to share your diagnosis. In my personal manual, there's also a part about briefings. When you start a new project, what's the first thing that people do? You all jump in a meeting, you get all the information, and afterwards people expect, do you have any questions? That just don't work for me. When you want to brief me on a new project, give me something written beforehand. Give me a contract, give me a scope, give me something that I can read before you expect me to participate in a meeting and give you all my questions. But again, here we are talking about communication preferences. That is in my manual, so that means that if you don't work like that, let's find some common ground. Let's talk about those communication preferences. If you're the one to just have that meeting, put me in that meeting, and expect me to answer, then first give me the time to write down my notes, to share those notes with you, and then we can move forward. So again, our personal manual, is this good for the neurodivergent people? For sure, of course. Is this the purpose of that document? No, it's not. This is, for me, just common sense. This is just about being human, talking to each other. What do you need to be at your best? We also, at AG Consult, we have defined our shared purpose. For us, our shared purpose is customer happiness. So that means that at the end of the project, a customer scores us 8.5 out of 10 or more. We are happy, we have a reason to celebrate at our team days. But again, if you're working from home, sitting at your desk, having no colleagues around you, and you're asking yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? You have that shared purpose. Everyone is working towards that shared purpose. So why are you doing this? For that customer happiness. Now a difficult one. We also say, I don't know. In a remote context, feels a bit stressy, right? But you don't have to know everything. You can't know everything. So when you get a question from your coworker and you don't have the answer, just simply say, I don't know, and see what happens. The team will step in, your coworkers, they will give you an answer. And again, it's a great opportunity to watch how the team responds when you don't know everything. It's an opportunity to go for that connection, to go for that trust. So I challenge you, next time you get a question and you don't have the answer, see what happens if you say, I don't know. We can't talk about communication without talking about Teams and Slack channels, right? We have some common rules when working with teams. We have teams, I know. But when you start your workday, you say good morning in Teams. Basically, that's just the equivalent of opening your office door and saying good morning. But in a remote context, you have some extra advantages. I'm an early bird. I start my day at 8, but it's perfectly fine if I just say good morning at 9. That leaves me with 1 hour of focus time. The team doesn't know that I'm at work, so it gives me 1 hour to focus on my projects, on my deadlines, because as soon as I say good morning, that means that I'm available for questions. Same goes at the end of the day. If you're working at the office, you close the door, you're gone. In a remote context, you just say bye-bye on Teams, and you're gone. That's the sign for the colleagues to stop bothering you. You are no longer available for questions. So if this works in the morning and in the evening, this also works when you need to pick up your kids from school. This also works when you want to take a long lunch break. This also works when you want to go for a run in the afternoon. So set those boundaries, communicate on when and where you are available for questions, and just have your team respect those boundaries. It's worth trying, I promise. When we're talking about Teams channels, Slack channels, I want you to think about how you communicate as well. We often, at the office, we just jump into a meeting whenever you have a question, or you just tap, do you have a minute for me? Gone, focus time. Jump into a meeting, let me help you. In Teams, ping, there's a direct message. I want you to consider, because when you're in a meeting afterwards, you often say, this could have been an email. So again, a challenge for you. Next time you have a question, for one of your coworkers, consider this. Can this be an email? Do I need immediate response on my question? Does this have to be a meeting? And I can promise you, don't think it needs to be solved immediately. So again, you allow yourself and you allow your coworkers to focus more. Async communication, you just have to try it. What's also important when you're going for async communication is that one source of truth. We have our intranet, and I know it's hard work to keep that intranet up to date, but it is worth it in a remote context, especially when you're going async. If your coworker has a question and it is on that intranet, just refer to that intranet. Say to the colleague, it's over there. Try it out, test it out. Look at those procedures. If you have a question afterwards, I'm here and we can jump into a meeting, we can discuss this. But at first, give your coworker an opportunity to learn. We also do this with our customers, by the way. When we have complex reporting to explain or whenever one of the team can't participate in a meeting, we just record a video. We record a video explaining the important stuff. We email it to the customer. They can watch it at their time, again, at their pace. And then when we have that meeting, we discuss what really matters because we all have the same information. So, communicate. One source of truth, async communication. I'm pushing everyone towards the intranet. I'm going for async communication, but I also love friction. Friction, as long as it is respectfully, it is great in a remote context. We have team meetings on Monday. So every Monday, for me, that's important to start a week together. For the team, it's important for discussions. We often start on Monday saying, have you seen this LinkedIn post? Have you written this article have you read this article in this or that newsletter? And then we discuss. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Why do you agree? Why do you disagree? We also bring our own work to the table. Here, this is what I've delivered last week. What do you think about it? So go for that friction. Go for those discussions, especially in a remote context. Again, it gives you an opportunity to learn from each other. It gives you an opportunity to lower the barriers. So if someone has a question, you are available and they're there to come to you with their questions. How does this work at AG Consult? Well, we often do retrospectives. So this, for example, at one point, we were just sick and tired of those team meetings, or at least it felt like that. So I just created an online board, sent a link to the team. They could put on Post-its anonymously if they wanted, with their name on if they wanted that more. And then we had the open discussion. What do you appreciate in a team meeting? What do you want us to drop? And there's HR stuff. This could have been an email. My mistake. That one's on me. And what does the team appreciate? Those discussions, those brainstorms. And now we have reinvented our team meeting. This is another example of a retrospective. I love the idea of a boat. We as a team, we are moving forward to one shared goal. To be honest, this didn't work in a remote context. This was way too complex. So replace it by this one. Every year, at the start of the year, I ask the team to look back on last year. What did you like? What did you lack? And as a team, what have we learned your last year? And what are we looking forward to? Again, communication. As a team, what are we looking forward to? We have, again, that one common goal. So, if you're talking about communication, go for your personal manual, go for those retrospectives. If you can do them in a development context, why not do them in a non-development context as well? Moving on to my second verb I want you to remember, and now we're talking about trust. Trust in a remote context. For me, trust is remembering that human nature is good and helpful. This just doesn't change in a remote context. Your colleagues, they are good, they are helpful, even if you don't see them, even if they're not sitting next to you. So, if you have a shitty day, you can count on your colleagues. Trust that they are there for you. Trust that they can jump into a virtual coffee to talk. What we also did at AG Consult is we have defined our values. We used the book Hiring for Attitude, great book, can tell you all about it after this talk. We have defined our 9 shared values. So again, that means that we are all recruited because we share those same 9 values. Again, that means that if you are working with a colleague on one project, you can count on them that they will do their absolute best for that customer happiness. You don't have to sit next to each other just to watch, are you doing your best? You can count on them, you can trust them. For me, trust is also thinking about benefits instead of threats. You don't want to be that CEO of L'Oréal saying that you lack passion and creativity. You can think about the benefits of working remotely. You can think about the benefits for your mental health here. But how does trust at AG Consult work? I'm going to tell you a story, short story. Imagine you have a colleague, let's call him Matt, and imagine it's Wednesday, 10 minutes before your lunch break, and ping, there it is, there is Matt asking if he can have the rest of the day off. But you have booked a meeting at 5 with him, so before you can start typing, he's there. He says, I know that you have booked a meeting with me at 5 p.m. I'll make sure I'll be there. Oh, and by the way, there's this one colleague, he needs feedback from me so that he can meet his deadline. I'll make sure to give him my feedback so that he can continue his work. Is it okay if I sign off for the rest of the day? Who am I to argue? I can just trust my colleague. I can just trust that if he needs that moment of time for his mental health, who am I to argue? So he had his time off. He was there in my meeting at 5. So, and that brings me to my 3rd verb I want you to remember. And now we're talking about letting go. I could have stressed the entire afternoon to make sure, will he be there? Will he be there? And then I've lost completely my focus. So I chose to let it go. And this one particularly is for the managers in the room. So managers in the room, we're talking about letting go. Pay attention. For me, letting go is about setting the example. I go swimming every Tuesday from 8 in the morning until 10. You know I'm an early bird. My workday starts at 8, so you can imagine the stress I felt first time I went swimming. What if something happens? What if my team needs me? My team didn't need me. I explained to the team why it was important for me, for my mental health, to go swimming. They did a great job. So show that it's okay to go for your mental health. Show that it's okay, again, to set those boundaries. For me, managers in the room, it's also important, if we're talking about letting go, to be conversation starters. You probably all had that one boss who asks you one question, and then by the way that they ask their question, they are steering you towards their preferred answer. Don't do that. Be a conversation starter. Trust your team. Let it go. See how you can come to a solution. See what solution the team prefers. And perhaps I should have started with this letting go part, because working remotely for us, it didn't affect our business. It didn't. We had less sick days. Last year, I was the one with the most sick days. I was off for 10 days. 5 of them were mandatory rest after a small surgery. We also have less unplanned leave, because, hey, if you can choose when and where you want to work, you don't need unplanned leave. Imagine you're at the office, you get a call from school, your kid is sick. What happens next? Do you have to take the rest of the day off? Or can you just say, I'm signing off, I'm picking my kid up from school, and then I'll evaluate. I'll evaluate if that kid is sick, and I can combine it with my deadlines and with my customers, if I have the mental space, or if I have to take the time off. Again, that's on you to decide. That's not on me. So, who had to take some time off to have a doctor's appointment? Or to just leave a worker in and explain, I need you to fix this, and then afterwards, I had to take some time off? We also noticed that we became more productive when we were working remotely, Because, and this is the research of Nick Bloom, he says that if you have the choice and flexibility, that's good for your mental health. And if you're in a good place, you are just more productive. I have this one colleague, and he makes really long days on Monday and Tuesday, working from 9 until 9 or even 10 in the evening. Don't know how he does it, but it's good for his work-life balance. The rest of the week, he makes shorter days. Work-life balance, again, who am I to argue? When we're talking about efficiency, I also want to talk to you about giving your customers the choice. When we're talking about efficiency, we sometimes have to travel for an on-site meeting. Imagine it's an on-site meeting for 2 people, and it takes you 2 hours to travel. What's the most efficient thing here? Will you travel? Or will you start the conversation with your customer? Dear customer, I love you, but what gives you the most value? What gives you the most added value? Do you want us to be there on site and you lose 4 hours of travel? Or can we take this as a remote meeting? You can record the meeting, and with the time that we save, we'll deliver value. Because let's be honest, AG Consult is an agency. Everything goes in our timesheets. The customer pays for every bit of research, for every bit of travel that we do. So my dearest customer, what do you prefer? If we have value when we're being on-site, I'll be happy to travel, but I want you to think about the consequences. So, working remotely made us more accountable. When you're at the office and you're there between 9 and 5, everyone sees you. Even if you're just chit-chatting at the water cooler, everyone sees you. Wow, busy, you're doing a lot. Especially at the end of the day, everyone leaves at 5 and you're still there because you had a lot of meetings and now you have to really work and deliver value. Oh, busy. When you can work remotely, you are accountable. You are more accountable because you know that the customer pays for every hour. And if you can choose when and where you work, you can choose when you are in the best mindset to deliver value, to work efficiently. So now I'm coming towards the end of my talk, and if there's one thing I want you to remember, don't forget to communicate. Share and perhaps overshare in that remote context how you are doing, and especially go for that connection with your team. Discuss as a team what you like and what you didn't like, and tell your colleagues what you need to be the best version of yourself in that remote context. Thank you very much.